My brother sent me this video of something called a tDCS and how to build one, which is basically like a little thing you put on your forehead with like these two little patches, and it runs like a very, very small amount of electricity into your brain to kind of like help stimulate things or like move things along. I'm not sure exactly, but it sounds like it's good for things like depression and anxiety and chronic pain and all of these other things. And I thought it would be cool to like build one myself and use it because it sounds like it's pretty cool, but I need to do kind of a lot more research because I don't want to just be sticking things on my brain that have electricity. I would really rather not inadvertently fry my brain, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to do research and I'm bringing you along for the journey. Let's start with the video that he sent me to like actually build it. So it's like a DIY build it video. I'm not going to actually show the whole thing. I'm just going to show you. This is the guy, and he seems like he knows what he's talking about. His name is Stan Curtis. He kind of gives an explanation about what it is and how it works before he shows how to build it. And then here he's got all of the components. It's like very minimal amounts of components. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe components with the thing he's holding in his hand as well, maybe 9, plus a 9-volt battery I think is all you need. You would also need like a soldering gun and some soldering iron, which I don't have. I might need to borrow from a friend if I'm going to build this. And then you've got your little, I'm not sure what you would call this, circuit board maybe, where it's kind of going to hold together the whole device. There's some pins. He's putting it in. He's got these dandy little like alligator clip holder things that will hold it in place while he's working, so he can use 2 hands. And yeah, as you can see, he's getting pretty close to being done with it. He's got all of the little things in there. I know nothing about electricity, so that's going to be one of the things I end up looking into, is like how electricity works and how to put these things together and like what do they even do. So he's got a little switch to toggle it on and off, and this little part to add the battery, and then so he's got the battery added in, and here's adjusting the amperage, the voltage. And so I suppose, I'm not sure where he would connect the actual like wires. Maybe these parts right here where these little meters are connected, that's where he would connect the wires for the actual things you put on your forehead. I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, so let's start doing some actual research. I don't normally do this, but I feel like it would be the best case to do YouTube research. I don't usually like doing YouTube research on camera because it feels a little bit like cheating, but also I feel like I need to get an overview of this topic before I start researching it, because I always end up like stumbling through the weeds on like really minute, fine details later on, when if I just get like a high level overview using YouTube, then it will be easier to like drill down and get like a very large comprehensive understanding of what's going on in this topic. Let's start with the first one that came up, the Perth Brain Center. Okay, so here they are attaching the different little electrodes to his brain. They're saying he's going to feel the mild, warm, tingling or itching sensation during the studies. And they're saying that the tDCS can help with all of these different things. Depression, brain injury, chronic pain, dementia, fibromyalgia, migraines, a whole bunch of different things. Here's an EEG machine they strapped him into. So this guy's saying it's like it sounds like he's saying it's a well-established thing that is not dangerous, or I don't know. It sounds like he's saying it's well-established. Let's try this one. SBS the feed. So he's putting in some little sponges there. This video doesn't have closed captions for some reason. So this guy is struggling with some severe depression, or maybe it's that bipolar. It sounds like he might be struggling with severe bipolar. So it sounds like he had tried a bunch of other stuff like mood stabilization drugs and things, and they weren't working. So she's explaining that she's going to put a tiny current through the one sponge on the one side, and that's going to come back out through the other side of the other sponge. He's got like a fancy looking home one. Why is that other woman in the hospital, in that clinic office room, using like super low-key janky ones? Okay, so he's got his one on the brain and another one on his arm. How is that? This woman seems like she's very skeptical of the people who do it at home. She said, what size electrodes do you need to use and where do you put them? She seems like it's important that you need to know exactly where to place them to get the benefits. This guy is using it to enhance concentration and focus. When he puts it on, he's using it to help him like study. So this is another guy who has the company Think, yet another device that they're selling to people to use at home, it seems like. Think was founded in 2011, so it's been around for a little while. So he's got his going from the brain to the base of the neck, it looks like. So they've got a bunch of different ones. This one, and then this one looks more homemade. This one looks janky as hell. So this woman is very skeptical of these ones that are being used at home. She's worried that repeated use can make some pretty profound changes to your brain. What happens if you do it for a month or 2 months or 6 months or a long time? This guy is skeptical that the occasional application of milliamps will harm his brain in the long run. Okay, I've written some questions down here, and I think for this video specifically, that woman is skeptical of the long-term effects. So I would also like to know what the long-term effects of regular use are, and does it actually cure things like depression? So they're asking, like, is it only effective when it's being used? Like, what happens if you use it and then you take it off? Does the depression come back? Is it like a cure, or is it like a treatment that is only effective when you're wearing it? And then that other video that we watched previously, I forgot to say that I wrote these questions down. That video, they said it was 1,000 times less than electroshock therapy, but what is the current? Actually, I've heard like milliamps being used, but I don't know what that means. They also said it was safe, but how do they know it's safe? Are there studies that have been done? And then are there any potential risks or side effects? I guess this is kind of similar to this long-term effects question. What kind of things can go wrong is really the question I think I should probably be asking the most. All right, keep watching. Psyched. Okay, so he's just giving more of an overview of how it works. And here's an image of like a device that could be used. I'm not sure what this headset thing is. He has some skepticisms about like what people think, not about like how it works, but like the effects or the benefits that you might get after using it. He says it uses between 1 to 3 milliamps. Translates to about 3 to 10 volts, not more than a common battery. So the blue is the cathode and the red is the anode. So in your brain, you've got like the neurons that have electrical current already going through them. So if you put the blue one on top, or maybe you put the red one, so the electricity is flowing from one to the other through your brain, I guess is the idea. Action potential, no action potential. A lot of this is going over my head. So he's saying that you need to make sure that you're getting the things at the right location, because there's a lot of different spots that you could put them. Some people put them on the underside of your face is an option because you need to put it in the right place. So it's the back of your neck. So he's saying like it works, the actual effectiveness varies a lot between the different people because everybody's brain is different. So it might work well for one person, but that doesn't mean it will work well for another person. He's saying that he doesn't think that there are a lot of people who will think it will help their focus and like cognitive abilities, and he doesn't think that's likely. He thinks that's probably not going to happen with this device. It's surprising because one of the first times I heard about this was a long time ago. I was listening to a podcast and they talked about soldiers who were using it to like train for battle. They would go through like battle simulations, and soldiers who were using this tDCS device while running through the simulations had significantly faster response times and better decision-making capabilities. So my questions for this video are, there are commercial manufacturers that he said that are claiming that it will improve creativity. So we should look into that. And also the intelligence and focus part. Got to look into will it increase intelligence, focus, and creativity? Maybe. Let's try this one, FreeThink. So they are using it specifically to help athletes train. This is another super fancy looking device. So the headphones themselves are the device, and they're targeting this specific part of the brain, this band that goes right here through the middle, I guess. What is it? Why do they keep hooking people up to these giant ass headsets? So this company's called Halo. Oh, okay, so here we go. So they've got the little tiny contact points in there. So I guess those are the parts that are actually sending electricity through your brain. So he's got it on while he's playing music. There he's putting it on. I guess putting it on while he's training to go ride his bike, because he's a triathlete runner. He feels like he works better with it on versus without. He feels like it helps him to keep his form. Like if he's training with it on, he can improve the form, his physical form, as he's completing the exercises. So this guy's a little bit skeptical. There's only 2 studies that were done on the Halo device, this headphone device, and the results were not super consistent. There are a lot of studies that suggest it could help depression, Parkinson's, or chronic pain. It's not approved by the FDA. It is generally accepted as safe. Whoa, they're using it on kids. Whoa, that's like a handheld one. He's also making the point that there's minimal research on the long-term effects. Has been used in different forms for years, though, with no evidence of damage to the brain. This guy feels like it helped him to win the triathlon, or the Ironman something. So my main questions for this video are like how they're using that headphone shape. How does that hit the quote unquote right spots on the brain? We need to look into the different positions that they are putting the electrodes on the brain, because it sounds like it's pretty specific. You need to, it seems like they are targeting different things with the different positions. So like athletes focusing on form, put it in one spot, and people treating depression, put it like up here and on the back of the arm, and people wanting chronic pain will put it on both. I don't know yet. I'm just saying, like, it seems like it needs to be specific where you're putting it to get the benefits. Let's watch this one next. Wow, yet another version. There's so many versions of this. Futuristic looking device. She has some severe depression and the medication wasn't really working. Headset changed everything. She feels like it's been helping a lot. She uses her phone to kind of control it, I guess. She said it was like a switch being flipped, like she was having a really difficult time, and then she put this thing on, and then it was like she could just get up out of bed, and she was feeling significantly better. In trials, 88% of patients were in remission after 6 weeks. Wait, is that a pro or a con for this? So this guy is saying that it will be a benefit because it will reduce the number of surgeries that are required to kind of like help people who have these problems. Even if it's like short term, we don't necessarily know the effects. Long term, it's beneficial, maybe. So she's also raising the point that it works as long as you're using it, but what happens when you stop using it? Does the person relapse? Do the effects continue to be beneficial, or is it only when you're wearing the device that the effects happen? Another video. Tomorrow is here. University of Arizona Health Sciences. So they're using it for chronic pain is the use case they are doing. Wow, that is a hella janky one. Let's just look at this again really fast. You got the chin strap, and they've got it. So they've got it on the forehead. So maybe on the forehead is for chronic pain. It looks like they're trying to record before and after. Why are they just doing this like in some random office? If they're actually, it sounds like they're trying to be pretty scientific about it. This must be like an EEG machine or something. I think this is for recording brain activity. So they're using this to record the brain's activity on the computer before and after. It sounds like there he has the device. He's holding the device in his hand. He's got like a bunch of stuff going on there. Are they using? Well, they got clips on his ears. So all of these people who have had chronic pain for one reason or another, they're hoping that this can be like an alternative to drugs or other kinds of therapy, potentially. Okay, so they said that it's very low levels of current. I want to know what like the actual, because I know your brain is using electricity, like every time your neurons fire, electricity is moving through your neurons and kind of like going through your brain. So your brain is like electrical already. So what is, if this device is using like milliamps, what is the amperage of your brain, I guess is what I'm asking. Let's look at NeuroMist. Oh, this is a product that he's selling. tDCS and tACS? What is that? I'm assuming that's probably like direct current stimulation and alternating current stimulation. Promoting brain rhythms. What is, you can elevate or lower brain activity or promote brain rhythms. He's saying that the sponge needs to be soaked in saline, which I've heard several people mention the saline solution. What is that, and how? He's saying that the saline has ions. Like, how is that factoring in here? The cathode is connected to the wire. He's kind of giving a basic overview of how neurons work here. He said that tDCS changes the neuron's voltage by up to 1,000th of a volt. What is that? Interesting. So he said that like the small amount of voltage that the tDCS is giving, is not enough to like actually cause neuron spikes or neuron electrical impulse messaging, but it is enough to make it easier for them to occur, is what he said. He's talking about, so transcranial alternating current stimulation, which is what I think we have in most houses in the US, is alternating current versus direct current. So he's saying that the tDCS can kind of like help the brain follow the natural rhythm of the alternating current. It's kind of like attractive how simple and convenient that is. Let me just look them up really fast. NeuroMist. Here we go, NeuroMist. The Pro Plus, 160, 225. Why are they saying it's like new? New versus like new. Does that mean somebody, oh, it's refurbished, I see. So somebody sent it back. Could be interesting to get this little box software one for 50 bucks. I feel like that could be decent. Although I feel like I heard somebody say that you could just, I'm pretty sure the video from that first guy who was talking about how to build your own, I'm pretty sure there's a an app you can just install on your phone, and then if you connect it to the little thing that you build, you can just do all the same stuff you'll be able to do on this little handheld device. Okay, so my main question after this video is like they had like a bunch of different modes on there, like caffeine mode, sleep mode, training, whatever, and so there has to be like a difference in output of electricity or like where the things are placed. So what is the difference between like the output of the direct current? Is it like voltage? Is it like the alternating current like he was saying, where like the pattern changes? Like what's going on there? Okay, let's watch some more videos. I feel like I'm going a little bit too broad. This is a lot of stuff. Positioning and montage, that would be interesting to look at. Let's try this one, UC Davis. So they're talking about how they're using the EEG machine to measure the brain waves, but they've got this little cap. So they got the cap measuring her brain waves, so they can see the electrical activity in her brain. This looks like the same thing. It uses the same cap as the EEG machine. The current is about the same amount as this little LED bulb. Putting electrodes behind her ear for some reason. That's a lot of different little things, spots to go into the cap there. And then it looks like they're giving her a test on the computer while they're monitoring her brain waves. They give her some kind of task to complete while they're monitoring her brain. Why are they in a different room? And then they give her a little quiz, like a test or like a survey while she's wearing it. So this makes me wonder, like, what's the difference between an EEG machine and a tDCS? Like, is there, because it's such a like slight electrical field that's going in, is the EEG machine like putting electricity into your brain, or is it only taking things out? Like, is there any current flowing through the EEG machine? Because that would, I feel like if it's similar amounts of current, then that would be like make me feel a lot safer. Because I think EEG machines are more trusted, like well established maybe. Let's try this one, Russell Barkley. So he's just going to review this article about the first ADHD headband that treats symptoms. So this guy is dedicated to ADHD sciences, so it looks like he's just going to review this device in reference to ADHD and how it affects ADHD. So he's just going through and reviewing these different publications that have been put out at different times of year. So it looks like early on in the 2020s to 2021, it was like promising. They had done several studies, but there was no conclusive evidence, and they were like, this seems like it could work, but we're not really sure yet. We need to do more studying. So it sounds like these studies are also doing some pretty rigorous methods and studies, and they are using sham, like placebo studies with the actual testing. It looks like there's no real difference between the sham treatment and the actual treatment based on their studies this time. So he kind of goes through several more studies, and it looks like he's going through the years. He started in 2020. This one was published in 23. But according to this guy, who sounds like he knows a fair amount about ADHD, his whole channel is dedicated to ADHD, and he has a PhD. He's reading these studies and thinking that if you're using the tDCS for ADHD, it's not going to be effective, or like it sounds like it was like very minorly effective. It was effective in small doses, or it had a very small effect, but none of the effects that it had compared really to like ADHD medication. ADHD medication was much more effective than the tDCS. Okay, I think I'm getting too high of a level overview. Let me look and see if there's like getting a little bit more into specifics, because these are all like super disjointed. Let's try tDCS explained. I already have like a lot of questions. All of these highlighted things are my questions that I've had so far. There's a lot. I'm wondering if I should just start looking into these questions. Let me just keep watching for a few more minutes. A lot of these are looking interesting. Let's try this one. Neuroscience IQ. This is like a low-key Joe Scott video. Oh, she said it's been used by the military. I should look into that. Okay, she's like very skeptical of this whole thing. Here she's talking, like explaining how batteries work. Okay, she's giving me a lot of questions. Let me just go through these questions that she brought up. It's used by the military, so I would like to know how, because I feel like I've heard that before. She also said something about the sham or placebo effects, which I've also heard several other people talk about. I should look into that. How it compares to things like just like getting, like being healthy, like does like exercise, sleep, proper hydration, like those kind of things have been shown to be beneficial for things like depression. So how does it compare? Like, is a tDCS like a quick fix for depression, or like would you feel less depressed if you like got a lot of exercise and enough sleep and you were like healthy? Like, how does it compare? She said hypomania. I just wanted to look that up. All this stuff about cathodes and anodes needs to be explored in more detail, which translates to I really just don't understand how the electricity works. So I just need to understand that. She mentioned that there are crayfish that have been used to study action potentials in the neurons, and there was also a study that she cited where the students had to learn a sequence of numbers without the device, and then they went back and had to do the same kind of process or like quick learning using the device to see if it like improved cognitive function at all. So I need to look into that as well. More videos. Here's talking about TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is, this guy looks familiar. It's a pulsed magnetic field that goes into the brain. So we've got like this weird like double figure 8 device thing. So they're applying the magnetic field to the prefrontal cortex of the brain. This woman had some severe depression. She said it feels like someone's tapping gently on the side of her head. So it sounds like most respond positively, some respond like kind of moderately, and some people don't respond at all. Like 35% of people don't respond at all to TMS. Wait a second. That's the same woman. Hold on. She's still using the same method with like hella janky. This video was published 9 years ago. This is that same woman who was skeptical about it before, or skeptical about people doing it at home. This woman, Jenny, feels like it's been beneficial. Wait, whoa, hey, it's that same guy. What the heck? It's the same guy who was using it for like, to improve his studying and brain function from that other video. Why are they interviewing these same people? I'm pretty sure that guy's the same guy too, as that other video. This guy has been researching, does it actually have any effect? It sounds like he is like actually doing the research maybe? So they're doing working memory, reaction time test, and attention. So he did a bunch of quantitative analysis, a bunch of different studies. So it sounds like based on his like readings of these studies, some of them seem beneficial, some of them seemed like they didn't work at all. So like if you kind of pool all of the different studies, there was like very little to no actual benefits that was shown based on all of the different studies, if you take them all and kind of aggregate the data. So he's saying that there is the like kind of the result of all of these different aggregation of studies is that there isn't compelling evidence that tDCS is reliable. So it's not like it works the same way for everyone, I think is what he's trying to say. It does something, but they don't know exactly what. Okay, I think it's time to start looking into like how it actually works. I think I have a healthy overview of how like everything's going on. I'll probably find out more as I look into it, but I think I need to start drilling down into some stuff. Let's start looking into where to place the pads, because I know that was a pretty significant, seems like that's a pretty significant part of how this whole thing works, is like where you actually place the pads on your brain. Where to place tDCS pads. Oh, this website came out before the AI overview. Total tDCS. Electrode placement guide. So it sounds like they're saying it's important. It is important to where you put them. The anode is the red and the cathode is the black, which I need to look into more because I don't understand what an anode and a cathode are. So these things are referred to as montages. I'm assuming that's these little figures of the head. They're montages. Oh, they're saying there are 5,000 research studies to date on tDCSs. That's a lot. These people have spent a lot of time looking through those research studies. Oh wow, okay, so there's a lot of different positions and they have what they are working for underneath here: depression and anxiety, addictive cravings, motor skills and learning, insights, present awareness. There's a lot of different positions. Attention, memorization, and learning. Here's an image of like where to put where these corresponding dots, because they've got F4 and F3. So where would that be? Somewhere here on the brain. F4 is there and F3 is over here. Okay, luckily for us, it says scientific research states that the exact placement is not really that big of a deal. You should try to get it as close as you can, but if you don't get it to the exact centimeter, then it's not a big deal. If you want to know, there are guides available. Let's look at, there's hyperlinks here. Accelerated learning. So this would be, why is there only one there? So the anode goes to the right temple and the cathode goes, to the left shoulder. Oh, it's in the corner here, left shoulder. Oh, here we go. The US military discovered that it can improve focus and double learning speeds. I would be interested to look. Do they have it cited? They do have sources here. Significantly accelerates learning to identify concealed objects. Enhancing vigilance in operators. Oh, Radiolab. I'm pretty sure this is the the podcast I listened to years ago whenever I first heard about this. I don't see one that is talking about the military though. Oh, it looks like the original report was removed from the military's website. Oh, here it is right here. It's been removed from so many websites that they had to put it on their private servers, which makes me think that it's probably inaccurate, and they don't want people thinking that they are putting out, they don't want people to see this information and say, you said this. DARPA, a lot of, this is like a very early 2000s marketing. Vision of neuroscience, operational neuroscience, desktop sleep deprivation assessment. There's a lot of stuff here. Accelerated learning. Okay, let's keep looking more at these montages. Let's look at the depression and anxiety one, because that is something that I would be interested in getting some relief from. So the anode goes on the left F3 and the right suborbital cathode. Seems like they think that it is well documented that this has the ability to produce improved mood. There's references here, a whole bunch. I'll come back to these research studies. I'm curious, this is like, F3 is like right where your hair is. So you'd have to be putting the electrode like on top of your hair. Also, several of the other ones were showing that it was going to have to go like on top of your head. How is the hair affecting this? Can it go through your hair? Does tDCS work through hair? Let's look at Reddit because they're great for getting an overview of a topic. This person seems like it could be an issue, especially if you're using the yellow sponges. Current is greatest at the edges of the electrode. This person thinks the current should go through the hair if the hair is damp or wet. I'm not super reassured. This person built their own voltmeter. Got a little diagram here. We got some very detailed schematics here. So it sounds like this is, the function of this is to kind of regulate the voltage coming from a 9-volt battery to get it more specific and precise. Here's a picture of the actual device that they built. They've got 2 9-volt batteries there. Okay, I don't really feel like that answered my question. Let me keep looking. I'm not seeing a lot of things that look like they're going to be helpful. Let me try something else. How to use tDCS through hair. Let's try this electrode positioning one. This looks like some actual doctors are giving this. These are some sponge widths, cranium positions. He's just giving an overview of what it actually is. Man, this is an old video, 11 years ago. Low intensity DC stimulator. Got 2 9-volt batteries. Don't plug it into the wall. These are the tools you need. Sodium chloride solution that they're using for saline solution. They're measuring this dude's scalp and marking it to get it like extremely accurate. Super accurate. So they're recommending using like a set amount of saline solution, 6 milliliters. So they're saying to apply the saline solution to the hair, but also to part the hair so that the patch can touch the scalp. It seems like that was the only thing that they're really saying, is just to part the hair, to like get it wet with the saline solution, and then to part the hair so that there is more surface contact with the scalp. I don't think they're going to keep talking about the hair. Let me go back. Let's try Frontiers. tDCS, a beginner's guide to design and implementation. Oh, goody, this should be useful. How do I use it? Some figures, electrode contacts, what parameters. Wow, this is like very in-depth. I might just go through this and read like the whole thing. This is in Frontiers. What is this? Seems like a fairly reputable something. Okay, so let's read this. It's popular method. So it seems like in this first paragraph they're saying that there's a lack of consensus between studies. There's a whole bunch of studies, but the like actual processes and methods varies quite a bit. So they are giving this like how-to guide so that people can start to like form more cohesive methods as they are conducting experiments. By summarizing the varied approaches, stimulation parameters, and outcomes, this article should help to inform future tDCS research in a variety of fields. So they're just trying to kind of get it to be more cohesive. If you search tDCS in PubMed, you will get 1,500 published articles. When was this published? 2017. So this is a little older. Some montages place the reference electrode extracephalically. What the heck does that mean? For example, on the upper arm, or you could place it bihemispherically to emit dual stimulation of 2 parallel cortices, purposely unregulating one region of the brain while downregulating another. It sounds like the electrodes are getting smaller in more modern times, and there's going to be a section on what size electrodes should be. It's generally assumed that positive anodal current usually facilitates behaviors facilitated with the cortical region under the target electrode. Negative cathode inhibits behaviors. Just like in TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, Active stimulation can be compared with a sham protocol. So anodal stimulation depolarizes the neurons, which increases the probability of action potentials occurring, whereas cathodal stimulation hyperpolarizes neurons, decreasing the likelihood of action potentials occurring. So it can be hard to decide upon the most effective design for any given experiment when tDCSs are involved. This has kind of led to, here's some more reasons why the research being published hasn't really been conclusive. Also, only experiments yielding significant results tend to be published, which results in an unbalanced account of successful and unsuccessful tDCS methodologies. So in this article, they're going to give a step-by-step guide on how to conduct an experiment. They give some reasons about why to use tDCS, why it's useful, a lot of the stuff we've already been seeing, how to use it. Here we go. Make sure there's no damage to broken skin. They're going to use saline as a conductor, or you could use EE gel if you'd like, but it can be a little messy, and the subject would have to wash it out of their hair when they're done. Here's a figure for all the things you might need. So it looks like some of these stimulation devices, stimulators, have like preset, pre-programmed things that you can program in. Make sure your subject is not experiencing any discomfort, and monitor the impedance levels. Because if the impedance levels are high, that means that you're not getting good conductivity and the brain isn't going to respond the way it should. Also, high impedance levels can be resulting in inadequate parting of the hair. Oh, this is why I started reading this article in the first place, was because it mentioned parting the hair to allow good contact with the scalp. I guess that answers that question. Try to keep impedance levels below 5k ohms. I know ohm is a unit of electricity. What is k ohms? K ohm refers to a kiloohm. A kiloohm is equal to 1000 ohms. And this was my next question. What is an ohm in the first place? Ohm is the resistance between 2 points of electrical conductor transmitting a current. Ohm's law states that the current flowing between 2 points on a conductor is proportional to the voltage and inversely proportional to the resistance. The current is equal to the voltage divided by the resistance. Okay, I don't understand any of this. It would probably help if I knew what voltage was and how it works, and also current in reference to electricity. So they're only talking about parting the hair in this guide. They haven't said anything about shaving the head or making sure there's no hair, so that is encouraging. So you can use the 1020 EEG system of measurement of like placing electrodes to kind of like make sure you're putting them in the right spot, locating regions. I think we already learned that it doesn't really matter that much as long as you're getting close. Just take into account the person's physiology can be different because everybody's bodies are different. They give us a concentration of saline that appears to be the most effective. If you're going to use saline, 15 to 140 mm's. I'm not sure what that means. In comparison to 220 with deionized water. Sounds like 15 to 140 is more comfortable. If impedance levels are too high, more saline can be added to compensate. Don't over-soak the sponges, because that can saturate the hair and affect the spreading of the current in like too large of an area. If you have a lot of hair, it's more likely that you're going to have to oversaturate the sponge pads. They recommend using small containers of saline. I think they were using pipettes in that video. If you want to use rubber bands to hold the electrodes in place and keep full contact with the scalp, that's an option. Also, elastic tubular netting can also be used. It's important that this material does not absorb the saline. So whatever you're using, make sure it's not going to absorb the water. Neoprene caps are also a good idea. So when you are targeting, you should be expecting to recruit neurons in the target region in order to observe stimulation-related changes in behavior. So you want to position the target electrodes to downregulate one area and upregulate another area. The parallel area in the opposite hemisphere if possible. It's important to do your best to get like as close to the region of the brain that you're trying to stimulate across the scalp, but surrounding regions may also get stimulated, potentially causing unspecified changes to task performance. So just be aware that it's very difficult to get the exact region of the brain you're trying to get. So if you miss, it might stimulate other regions of the brain that you weren't intending to stimulate. Trying to put the electrodes too close together because then the current might go through the cerebrospinal fluid from one electrode to the other without going into the brain. If they're placed farther apart, a distance of at least 8 centimeters, large distances come at a cost though, and would require higher stimulation intensities. So the current dissipating across the scalp and not going into the brain is known as shunting. Smaller electrode sizes have been correlated with larger shunting effects. So if you're using little tiny electrodes, it's more likely that the current will dissipate across the skin of the skull maybe, is what that's saying. So something to be aware of is that the current might get directed into vital areas if you put the electrode too far away. So if you're putting it on like the leg or somewhere downstream of the body, the current might go through the head and then go somewhere that it's not supposed to, like your heart or respiratory system or brainstem autonomic region. So just be aware of that if you are trying to run the electricity all the way through the body. Electrode sizes should be between around 25 to 35 centimeters squared, 5 by 5 centimeters. Intensity should be around 1 to 2 milliamps, I think. People have used up to 4 milliamps, like in stroke patients, but that's not above the advisable safety threshold for humans. Recommended is no more than 2 milliamps. So 9 minutes of testing created after effects of up to 30 minutes. 13 minutes of stimulation had 90 minutes of after effects. Looks like 2 milliamps of cathodal stimulation for 20 minutes has been shown to result in excitatory changes. They haven't specified an exact time, so it sounds like around 20 minutes is probably good. Okay, they talk about sham conditioning, which is how to conduct a placebo. You can kind of ramp up the voltage to get like that feeling of stimulation on the brain without actually going through it, it looks like, without actually switching on the stimulation. So here's a little figure. It's talking about pre-stimulation and post-stimulation. I'm not sure what those would be, but this would be offline, where most of it is, or about half of it is taking place without actually active stimulation. Online is mostly active stimulation, and sham is where they ramp it up to kind of make you feel like you're getting treated and then just turn it off and then have no stimulation to control for placebo, it sounds like. They talk about probing the effects, current densities. They're getting really far into the weeds here. Talk about some adverse effects and the conclusion. Okay. At this point, I think I have pretty much everything I need to know surrounding like prep work and like understanding how it works and how safe it is. So I think it's time to actually start answering the questions I had from before. And then I want to like actually go through the process of looking in how to like build my own, like purchasing things and like, oh, I need to learn a little bit more about electricity as well. But let's start with questions. I think I've answered most of these questions, but I'm just going to answer the ones that are still interesting to me. Let's start with this one here. Potential risks or side effects of using tDCS. News medical. Transcranial risks. Most common side effects include itching, tingling, headache, burning sensation, and discomfort. Physical adverse effects are restricted to the site of stimulation. In children, irritability and acute mood changes were also chief adverse effects. Other adverse effects may be moderate tiredness, headache, insomnia, and nausea, most of which are temporary and well tolerated. How about the long-term effects though? Long-term effects of using tDCS. Journal of Neuroengineering and Rehabilitation. This is talking about like what happens if you continually use it. Does it like change your brain? This is talking about what happens if you continually use it. Like, does it change your brain for the long term? It looks like they think it is capable of inducing lasting changes in the brain's capability. Not my question though. NIH.gov. This is a long title. They're saying that the tDCS can be useful in supporting other protocols, but the long-term effects persist for up to 1 month, which doesn't answer my question either. In this Frontiers one, this is concerning. I hope this isn't what the article's about. Causes severe mental health issue, depression, anxiety, leading to disability and potentially suicide. Let me look at this really fast. Long-term effect of tDCS in treatment of chronic tinnitus. So it looks like they were able to improve tinnitus a little bit, or the delayed significant long-term improvement. I'm not sure what that means. Where does this talk about depression and suicidal thought though? Oh, okay. Tinnitus causes severe mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. You could have led with that. Jesus Christ. Scaring me. Okay. More questions. Let's look at what the current of the brain is putting out naturally in relation to like the 1 to 2 milliamps of voltage or whatever. On a voltage, where do neurons land? Social Sci, LibreText. I don't want to research it. Let's look at this Quora. How much voltage and current passes through a neuron junction? None. A lot of misconceptions about electrical impulses. The short answer is that no voltage passes across the synapse because the synapse works by releasing and catching molecular ping pong balls. No electricity flows down the axon. Do I need to look into this more? Is electricity in the brain a figure of speech? NIH.gov. From chemistry to circuitry. The brain does convey its signals by means of electricity and chemical compounds. Now I'm confused. Sorry. American Museum of Natural History. Brain introduction. This says the nervous system runs on electricity, but the levels are low. Brain signals involve less than 1/10 the volt of an ordinary flashlight battery. Like, where did you get this information though? Lab exchange. So each neuron in the brain possesses the ability to accumulate a charge across its cell membrane, which results in a small but meaningful voltage. Average neuron contains a resting voltage of approximately 70 millivolts. I thought it said negative 70 millivolts. This is quite small when compared to the 1.5 volts in a AA battery. So let's compare 70 millivolts to 1 milliamp. Convert. Quick conversion. 75 millivolts compared to milliamp. 75 milliamps. Let's try 70. Convert. 70 milliamps. So if we're going 1 to 2, go 2. It's the same as 2 millivolts? That sounds wrong. What if we change this to negative? Okay, I'm not sure. If this is correct, it means that the amount of electricity that's going through the tDCS is like significantly lower than the action potentials in your brain already, but that sounds wrong. Let's look at more questions. You know what, actually, if I take the time to answer all these questions, it's going to take forever. So let me just think about the specific things I still need to know in order to actually build the tDCS. I definitely still need to understand how, like, at least the basics of electricity, so let me look into that. Milliamps. Explained. Jackery. Ultimate guide to milliamps. 1 amp is equal to 1000 milliamps. Electrical current units. Different magnitudes. I'm not understanding any of this. According to Ohm's law, the current between 2 points is a conductor proportional to voltage. Yeah, I feel like I don't even, like, there's so much going on here that I don't even have a framework for, so they're just like explaining things, and I'm like, I would have needed to know the other thing first before you explain this thing to me. Electricity, man. Let's try electricity explained. Videos. Let's watch some more videos. How electricity works. Everything made from atoms. There's an electron going around the outside. The shells. Each shell can hold some different electrons. The electrons can kind of trade and give electrons to other atoms that are next to them. That's kind of how electricity works. The electrons are flowing through the wire. The current is flowing. And if you add in a resistor, the electrons are flowing and bumping into things. So in iron, they bump into a lot of things, which makes it get hot. But in copper, they don't bump into very many things, so it stays relatively cool. This is electromagnetic induction with the magnet going back and forth between the coils of wire, which generates an electric field or magnetic field. And that's what's generating electricity, it seems like. Like the back and forth motion is causing the electrons to flow back and forth. Capacitors store energy, electrical charge. So alternating current is the magnet going back and forth because it's switching directions. So as it switches directions and goes back and forth, the current is alternating. And direct current is just the power is going from the battery to the light and back again in one direction. Okay, that was a good video, but I understood a lot of that went over my head. Let's watch another one. Oh, this is by the same guy. It's just an updated video. So the electrons are already in the wire. When you flip the switch, it connects the circuit. Copper atoms. So the proton and the neutrons are in the nucleus of the atom, not the nucleus. Protons and neutrons are in the middle. It is the nucleus. Here the electrons are all randomly moving around. They're all bouncing off atoms and ending up roughly where they started. Some move to the left and some move to the right, and the average is 0. Electrons are negatively charged and protons are positively charged. Neutrons have no charge. Toaster wires get hot because they are resistive wires and they don't really allow the electricity to flow through them well. Voltage will drop the farther the wire is. Whoa, look at this battery. Magnesium diode and zinc. So as the chemical reaction is happening, the electrons are transferring down through the barrier and they're all moving down in one direction. So the electrons can only go this way. So the battery connected to the positive side and the negatively charged wire going this way. Positively charged wire. Switch is open. When you complete the circuit, when the switch closes, disturbance waves, and there's a surface charge. And the electrical field combined with the magnetic field, the switch closes, and then they meet, they cancel out, and the strong opposite surface charges, the electrical field. Okay, learned a small amount more, still mostly going over my head. Let's try this one. How electricity works. He's explaining the atoms again. Protons have neutral charge, electrons have negative end. So the greater the distance, the lower the force, it looks like. The shorter the distance, the higher the force. So if you're like getting static electricity buildup, you're transferring electrons to things, maybe? And the negative charge is getting added. So if you rub your feet on the carpet, electrons are transferring from your body to the carpet. So the electrons are flowing through the wire and then back into the battery because this is a closed circuit. So they're just transferring they're not, but if you open the circuits, they can't flow. And then if you put a light in there, the electrons will flow through the light bulb and turn it on, start to heat it up. The filament made of tungsten, which has some resistance, so the electrons start bumping into the tungsten atoms and heating it up, which makes it glow. You have potential energy. So the ball at this state has a high potential energy, and the ball at this state has a low potential energy. And electrons are similar. Some of them have high potential energy and some have low potential energy. Oh man, this is the crazy stuff. So how does all this relate to the tDCS and how electricity is getting put into your brain? Or how does all this relate to me like putting one together and like wiring something up? So I think what I'm going to do next is probably forget about all my other questions, because this is becoming way too involved and long. So I think we're just going to go back to that original video where the guy was building a simplified tDCS and start following his instructions, because maybe if I know what components I am like working with, I can look into those components more and understand what they do. This is the original video. Here he's got all of the parts laid out for us. We've got several different little things here. Oh, look at that. He's even got like a handy little schematic laid out for us. Perfect. This says all parts available at noonco.com. Let me try that. Search it. He's got a tiny little one built there on this website. So I've been looking around and it looks like he used to build them for people, but he doesn't anymore because he had another job and he was doing it mostly for like to help people out. In these schematic kits, he doesn't have like this actual schematic listed that I can print. For some reason, I can't find a list of his parts anywhere. He just sells like the completed kits, which is a little bit frustrating. Maybe I can just go off of these things, but it doesn't list what it says on here. Maybe I can watch the video and see what he says. He's talking about a resistor going on the other side from the header and the current. I think he said that was a perf board. I think he said this thing was a potentiometer, maybe? Resistor and output resistor. You've got battery clip power leads. Okay, so I made a list here of all the parts and components that we're going to need that he said in the video. I don't know if these are the actual terms, but the first one was a perf board, and then we've got a current regulator, LM334, a 470 ohm resistor, a header, a feedback resistor, a potentiometer, a battery connection for the 9-volt battery, a switch, an LED, and a 10s unit electrode patch for like actually placing on your head. But I'm not seeing anything in this schematic that will like control the amperage, and because there was a lot of people who were talking about being able to control the milliamps, like going from 1 amps to 2 amps, because he's using a 9-volt battery. How are amps related to voltage? I don't know, because we got this big old battery that's 9 volts, but we don't want 9 volts going into our brain. How are we being able to control the amperage? Oh wait, check it out. Here we go. So he's got his little multimeter set to millimeters, 20 millimeters there on the dial, and then he's using this screw to increase the amperage, I guess, whatever it's called. So it's going up. He's releasing the screw and the amperage is going up. So that's at 1 milliamp, I think. And he's saying that the LED light will glow brighter the higher the milliamps. And now he's got it up to 2. So with the 9-volt battery, it's running at 2 milliamps right now. And the LED light is glowing the brightest. Okay, so I also need like do I need the phone app that he mentioned? I don't see any way to connect a phone app here. There's no like Wi-Fi built in. Can I connect a phone via wire to this thing? I think that was on a different video. Let me look at the other video. This is like a video he published before the other simplified instructions. Oh, here's the schematic for the other one. This one is USB powered though. How is he powering it with the USB? From 5 volts. So this is saying USB port plus 5 volts. Does that mean I could run this on a phone battery and I wouldn't need to use a 9-volt battery? Because if you're using 9 volts, how long are you going to have to, how much time do you actually get before you have to buy a new battery or like get a rechargeable 9-volt battery? This is ridiculous. I feel like I'm getting pretty overwhelmed. I thought I had a decent amount of information and enough understanding of like basic stuff that I could like just grok this from the schematics, but they like absolutely do not. So I think I'm just going to start looking at parts to see if I can like find out where I would even get parts. Where could I even get parts to make this thing? Starting with the first one, and that is the perf board. Let's just start with that. Let's try this circuit specialist one. Solderable perf board. This one looks a little bit too big to me. Let me see. It looks like there's one that's a little bit smaller. Let's try that one. And then, okay, that looks good. What's next on the list? Current regulator, LM334. So I'm trying to search it on the website and it keeps saying no results to show. Let me just try searching it in Google. Search. Nothing's coming up immediately. Mouse or electronics maybe? Let's look back at the schematic to see what the picture looks like more. So this is the LM334, which is going to be this black thing in the middle right there. There's like two different styles. There's like the head with the pins coming down style, and there's also this like little crab walkie style. Let's look at this one. Okay, next part. 470 ohm resistor. Will they have that in mouse or electronics? Taking forever to load, but I noticed that this part says it has a quantity of 1, so 75 cents for one of them. I feel like if it's going to be... So with all these little websites, I'm going to have to pay for shipping. It's not like Amazon where I'm going to get free shipping. So I think if I try to order them on Amazon, I'm going to... Let me look. 470 ohm resistor. Yeah, so I'm going to have to buy like a pack of a lot, because it's $6 for a pack of 10. And I don't want to get a pack of 10 for each item, because that's going to add up really fast if I have to do 9 times like $5. So it might be worth it to just rack up a tab of like $5 or $10 on this like lesser known electronic site and then pay like $10 for shipping. This is taking forever to load for some reason. I'm going to try it over here. Ohm resistor. Alright, 4.99k ohm resistor, 56 cents, in stock, ready to be shipped. Okay, let's look at the next part. Header. I don't know what that means. I'm just going to Google search it and add in circuitry. Header. Maybe that will help me find something that looks more like what it needs to look like. Because I think it needs to look like this thing with the 2 pins. Let's try a 9-volt battery perf board header. Okay, well it looks like I might have my work cut out for me trying to figure out how to buy these things. I still need to get the feedback resistor, the potentiometer, switch, the LED, several other things. This might be a little more difficult than I thought. Anyways, I think I might do that research on my own though, because it's a little bit confusing to try and do it on camera. So I think that's going to about do it for this video. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you had a good time. I know I did. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.